We're here today to celebrate you as a senior class as we mark the occasion of your being now exactly 100 days from graduation. So this is generally both a happy and yet also a poignant moment, a chance to reflect on how much has been achieved, but also a reminder it will be not too much longer before your careers on the Hill draw to a close. Still, as brief a window as it may seem, it still leaves room for much to be achieved and much to be experienced. I should also add that never again will you be celebrated as you are going to be over the next 100 days. Your egos are never again going to feel as satisfied as they will during that time. From now until the end of May, you will be told, and we'll get to tell each other, just how special you are, just how much you mean to your teachers, coaches, and friends, and just how much you will be missed. Your parents will wax nostalgic about what it was like when they dropped you off for your first day at MBA. Coaches and school administrators will publicly proclaim your triumphs at assemblies, senior nights, and the leavers dinner. Mr. Anderson will get misty-eyed as you walk across the stage at graduation, remembering the first time he gave you demerits. So I hope you will enjoy this. But how to approach this time? Well, as a history teacher, it's impossible for me to avoid a brief reflection on why 100 days is considered any kind of significant milestone. It's mostly down to the examples of two men who achieved a great deal in that time frame, and as it happens, this was also the time of year when various twists of fate enabled those 100 days to take place. It was in late February 1815 that Napoleon plotted and executed his escape from exile in Elba, a daring risk that culminated with a fleeting 100 days return to power in Paris and renewed war in Europe. Fast forward to February 1933, and President-elect Franklin Roosevelt narrowly dodges an assassin's bullet in Chicago, just 2 weeks before launching his own 100 days of New Deal reforms. It is, of course, unlikely that even the most ambitious among you will be able to shake up the world to quite such a degree in the next few months as these two managed, but there are still a few ways in which they might provide useful guideposts for thinking of the time between now and May the 28th. Napoleon's example is a reminder that sometimes trying something daring and outside the box can have a big payoff. Perhaps find an activity that you haven't yet tried at MBA. Make a point of experiencing while it's still available to you. Roosevelt's narrow escape after a hard-fought election victory shows you how sometimes it takes a little luck as well as a lot of effort to get a chance to make things happen. Equally, every one of your stories at MBA so far has been a mix of effort put in to get to this point, combined with some measure of good fortune to have the opportunity to be here. Recognize that and enjoy it as you go through the various communal celebrations with the rest of your senior class this year. The next 3.5 months may feel like they are flying by, but make sure you make the most of them to round out your MBA experience. After all, as Roosevelt himself almost famously said, you have nothing to fear but posting below an 85 in your AP English class and therefore not being exempt from the final exam, Richard. In any case, I hope you enjoy everything that we have for you this morning. It's going to be a fairly brief program. A couple of you will speak, and then we'll hear from Mr. Deutsch, and then we'll go through the main events coming up in the next 100 days. We're going to start it off with some music, so please join me in welcoming John Thornton and Robbie Barnes as they perform for you.
To see the whole truth.
Okay, thank you, John and Robbie. Next up, we're going to hear from a couple of you about your own reflections on your time here. So first, John Jameson, and then Dan Mcguire.
Men of the Hill, we are gathered here today to commemorate our time at MBA. And personally, I can't think of a better way to celebrate 6 years of academia than with a mandatory breakfast at 7 in the morning. Today is a time to look back on our growth as gentlemen and our achievements. Whether you were accepted into an Ivy League college, set a state record in athletics, or managed to score above a 65 on one of Mr. Kelly's reading quizzes. I'll turn now to one of my favorite subjects, me. When I first came here, I thought my path was clear. I'd wrestle through high school, get insanely buff, and then probably do something athletic in college. I'm sure you could all tell from just looking at me that that goal didn't really pan out. But I'm glad it didn't, because that spectacular failure led me to theater. I've spent the last 5 years of high school performing theater, and yesterday, during assembly, after hundreds of hours of studying, rehearsing, and acting, that hard work culminated in my getting kicked in the crotch in front of 600 students and faculty members. My time on the Hill has been largely affected by theater, but I would be remiss if I forgot to mention some of the non-theatrical highlights of my high school career. Whether it's Dr. Rader's fashion sense, Mr. Herring's music tastes, or Dr. Boyd's harmonious accent, my life here has been positively impacted by many faculty members. I'm sure we can all appreciate the lessons these men and women have taught us. Mr. Hannon taught me that life comes at you fast, but chemistry tests come at you much faster. Mrs. Maddox taught us that having a plan is necessary to succeed, and Mr. Sawyer taught us you can go far in life, but you won't go anywhere with your shirt tail hanging out. The most important lesson for me, however, comes from our headmaster, Mr. Joya, who continues to teach us that there is always a reason to smile, even on the darkest of days. So, gentlemen, as my time at the podium and the Hill draws to a close, I will leave you with a quotation by Ralph Ellison from our summer reading, which I totally read. The world is a possibility, if only you'll discover it. Thank you.
Good morning, men. My name's Dan Mcguire. I came here in 9th grade, and if you don't know me, just catch me in the wrestling room or something, I don't know. Anyways, I'm here to talk this morning about what makes NBA special to me. So I got that prompt from Dr. Boyd over the weekend, and I thought about it for a little while, and maybe I'm going down the wrong path here, but what I love most about NBA are actually moments just like these, where I get to stand up, forget about school for a while, and just talk about whatever I want. Now, let me explain myself a little here. When I say I like moments like these the most, I mean I like moments that are removed from the stress of school life. When NBA lets us just be ourselves for a minute. Whether it be on the field, in the theater, or, maybe eating a mint on a nice rainy day, whatever it is. I'm eating a mint right now. That was the joke. These opportunities we have to enjoy NBA and just be ourselves are my favorite part. On that same note, NBA is a place that typically encourages conformity and the grind of school life. I think y'all all know that. So every chance I get personally to, let loose, maybe even be a little dumb, I take. High school is a place to prepare for college and your future, but it's also a time to enjoy. And I think we should not forget that. So this speech is short, but I'd like to end it with a challenge to y'all, which is don't be afraid to take risks and maybe even be a little dumb. And I thought this speech would be about 2 to 3 minutes, but I think it's like a minute and a half, so sorry, Dr. Boyd. But I'm going to keep on talking so I hit that word limit. Stretch it out, yeah. double space my speech, I got it. Yeah, I got a ton of mints today, so, 2 minutes. All right, thank you.
Attending school is similar to a bus ride. The journey begins when we board. We meet people along our way, of which some are strangers, some friends, some strangers yet to be friends. There are stops and people get on. At times, some of these people make their presence felt. They leave an impact through their kindness toward us fellow passengers, while on other occasions they remain indifferent. But then it's important for some people to make an exit, and along with that, take their baggage. Not in a bad sense of baggage, but the memories they have and we have for having taken the ride together. They need to now get down and walk the paths they were destined to, because if people always made an entrance and never left, either for better or worse, then we would feel confused. And the purpose of their journey would lose its essence, and there would be an awkwardness. For some, the getting off will be easy. They simply have less baggage to unload, did less, reached out less, protected more, were confused, lonely, burdened, not understood, did what they could, but sometimes disappointed, not respected, or hurt sometimes during their day. Yet, it was great they were brave enough to buy a ticket. Yet it reminds us that people don't care what you have to say unless they know that you care. Some got off early, left on their terms, or due to a situation outside their control, but after satisfying what they needed to do, got closure, yet had good baggage to carry along with them. Some got on when they just wanted to do a little sightseeing and take a ride for simply the unknown, but the anticipated challenge, opportunity, and fun they might experience that somebody maybe talked them into. Think of those that moved to town, paid less for their ticket, joined in with passengers who already had dibbies on the leather seats. Some got on the bus early, had high squeaky voices, young, unsure, apprehensive, afraid of the unknown, yet hung in there, signed the book 6 times, have lots of baggage to take off, and will need some help from the younger, stronger guys that are not getting off yet. They've been involved in many things, have many stories, spent many late nights, changing the oil, fixing flat tires, replacing parts, and even doing body work and repainting. They've kept the bus between the ditch and the guardrail most days, and will have difficulty getting off, yet know they must. But it's okay if they leave some of their baggage on board. The guys will be able to use it. So what's next? You still have time for discovery and to take steps towards fulfilling your purpose, gather more baggage to take, or maybe better, leave behind. Time to ponder what you would have done differently, what you wished you had tried, who you wished you had reached out to, talked to, made as a friend, want to thank, or make future plans with. Soon, you will take your talents, lessons learned, and use them in your future endeavors to find new baggage on a new bus. When you do, remember to maintain a balance that works for you, because everyone will want some of your goodness. Be sure to save some for yourself. Know that you will be missed, but we who are left on board will have the baggage you decided to leave behind to remember you by. Now, go make the most of your last 100 days on the bus.
Okay, we are nearly done for this morning. Just a few comments to close. I think the 3 speakers just now gave you a nice sense of the blend of what the next 100 days is going to be. They should be thoughtful, they should be reflective, and they should be fun. So Mr. Deutsch gave you a good example of some of the larger things you might think about. Dan Mcguire gave a nice example of some of the things you might reflect on, as did John. John also reminded you that there is nothing more fun than mandatory fun, and there will be plenty of mandatory fun over the coming few months. As you can see up here, these are all the events that lie in store for you. I would urge you, though, to think about what both Dan and John did up here this morning, which is just to speak briefly for a few moments about their own time on the Hill, their thoughts about what they will miss when they leave, what they've achieved. There are going to be a lot of occasions in the next 100 days where you will get a chance to do that. Starting with the father-son dinner, the mother-son lunches, the senior leavers dinner, all those occasions. So I would encourage you, as you're going through these last 100 days, and as you're thinking about what's made your time at MBA memorable, that you think about sharing those thoughts with your classmates at one of these occasions. It can be a slightly nerve-wracking thing to intend to do, but most people are very glad once they have done it. So all that being said, you'll get plenty of information about these events as they are coming up. Thank you all for being here this morning. Have a good Wednesday.